Hello, everybody, and welcome to Navigating Mandatory Instant Payments, the Challenges and the Technology. This is the second installment in our series. In the previous one, which we hope you've watched, we explored what the new legislation means and its significant impacts. Today, we're going to be discussing two different things. One is the challenges that organizations may face when navigating the new instant payment rules. And secondly, how to respond to this new legislation. So my name's Bruce. I'm your host and facilitator for today, and I'm delighted to be joined by two guest speakers from Worldline. We have Henrik Hodem, who is the head of open banking products, and he's going to be talking to us specifically about the verification of payee. And then we've got Piotr Romaniuk, who is the product marketing manager for cloud payment services. So welcome, Henrik and Piotr. Thank you so much for joining us today. Should we crack on with the questions? We've got 5 different questions to answer in the next 20 minutes or so. Let's start with you, Piotr, please. Let's start by thinking about the benefits of the new rules and regulations around instant payments and specifically SCT Inst. Piotr, can you please talk to us about these benefits, please?
Of course, happy to do it. I believe speaking about the benefits, we should talk about the participants that are taking part in the process of the credit transfer. So there will be certain benefits visible for the end customer, for someone who is receiving or sending a payment. In that case, it's really all about the convenience. The transactions, the credit transfer will become much faster. We won't be bound anymore to the standard typical waiting times associated with the normal usual transfers we know currently. So the funds will be available in the bank account within 10 seconds, which is a massive improvement. Also, we are not bound anymore to this typical 9 to 5 way of doing business or sending and receiving payments, because in fact the payments will be sent and arrive in the accounts for 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days in a year. So it's really massively about the convenience. And in that sense, it can also increase competitiveness in the channel, which of course the end customers will massively benefit from. Now, on the second hand, we have, of course, the banks, which might benefit from enhanced revenue opportunities coming from the new use cases or new business models and collaborations that can happen and can be formed within open banking area, generating new offerings to the customers. But it's not only about new business models, it's also about the cost reduction through improved efficiency, through improved risk management, and increased customer engagement. Because in the end, the customers, both private customers as also the businesses, will interact with bank systems or with banks much more than I believe is happening. Now, in the end, if we look also quickly at the benefits for the businesses, I strongly believe it's really above all about the offering cheaper payment methods, which will then, in fact, improve the cash flow of the businesses, because they will have a faster access to the funds. The funds will be faster in their account, and of course, that will make the liquidity planning not only better but also more accurate. Streamlined payment processes will definitely reduce, in the sense, administrative burden, less manual interaction, means, of course, again, faster transactions, faster reconciliation, and more accurate.
Fabulous. There's a load of benefits, aren't there? If I'm thinking particularly about sanction screening, what benefits will the mandatory change bring to customer screening as opposed to transaction-based screening? Could you explain that to us, please, as well?
Yeah, it's definitely a very important part of the new legislation, where instead of looking on every single transaction from several perspectives, the organization, the banks will be it will be mandatory to focus on the customer or the counterparty taking part in the credit transfer, meaning the customers will be screened, in fact, before any transaction is happening, at least once a day. This can have a fantastic chance to improve efficiency in the processing time. It will identify potential risk unprompt and not during the processing of a payment, which in fact has the chance to reduce false positives, leading to fewer unnecessary delays and manual investigation also associated with legitimate transactions. Streamlined compliance processes by focusing on the customer, on the counterparty, rather than individual transactions, have the massive potential to lower the processing time, because the sanction screening is going to be outside of the processing chain within, if we think about this, 10 seconds of the time.
Henrik has been very patiently listening to all that. Henrik, the time is now for you to speak to us, particularly about verification of payee. I love saying that. What benefits do you see there in terms of risk and fraud detection? Talk to us about verification of payee, please.
Thank you, Bruce. If we look at the benefits of verification of payee, we should start with the fact that the introduction of instant payment will open up new doors for fraud. You can imagine that if the money is really gone within seconds and even your bank is not able to take it back, the fraudsters would be it's very attractive for fraudsters to convince you to send money to a new bank account. Yeah? And if you look at countries where the instant payment is already quite mature, like the UK or the Netherlands, you see this kind of fraud pattern already today. You see fraudsters tricking the account holders to say, okay, because of technical reasons, you should send all your money to this or that bank account, or you receive a faked bill from your utility provider or telco, and you send the money to the wrong one. And before you realize that the money has already left Europe and the money is gone. Today, everything is on your own risk. So you enter the IBAN in your online banking, for instance, and then it's on your own risk that the money is lost. Yeah? And here the regulator said, okay, we have to change with hopefully having almost all transactions being executed instantly. We should give a tool to the consumers, but also to the corporates to check the mapping between the name and the IBAN before executing the payment. And here is verification of payee the right tool to really have an instant feedback. A second benefit is the user convenience. You can imagine entering an IBAN, this is not a lot of fun. And you can have a lot of problems entering the wrong one or introducing incorrect data. Here also the service will help you to, let's say, also to improve. So we are expecting a kind of self-healing process in the system, that especially if it's a close match, that means only small changes or small errors in the beneficiary name, the service will return you a recommendation of the name or a proposal, and you can then accept the proposal and to improve the quality of your own data. So we expect that during the time, less and less no match answers will be given, and then the trust in the whole system will be improved. And the last also very important topic is we expecting a cost reduction. You can imagine today with all incorrect or unsuccessful transaction, all participants have a lot of costs related to that. It's not only the banks that have to prove that they executed the payment in the right way, but also beneficiaries not receiving the money would have to check their accounts, have sent reminders to the consumers, but also in first case, the consumer has to pay some penalties in case the money had not arrived in the time. So you see the whole ecosystem would benefit from this new service, where we expect that the number of these wrong or fraud transactions will be reduced dramatically.
Fabulous. Piotr, earlier we were talking about all the benefits. Surely these new regulations are going to cause some upheaval. What do you see as being the challenges out there for businesses? What do you expect the challenges that they will face?
That's a very good question, Bruce. Now, thinking about the discussions we are having with our current customers, also with some potential ones, I believe that there is a lot of anxiety around the integration and implementation cost about upgrading the infrastructure that currently the banks have, because the aged infrastructure or the aged IT landscape can pose a bottleneck in the trying to be compliant with the new regulation. Also, the compliance adjustments that were mentioned before, changing from the transaction screening to the entity-based sanction screening. It will automatically mean for the banks to adapt existing processes, adapt the existing workflows. But also, if we think about it a little bit deeper, what is really at the very bottom of all these actions to be taken is, of course, making sure that the systems are working in a proper way. The personnel is ready to do it. So it's also about testing and training of our own workforce on the bank side. Another kind of worry area or that makes banks organizations anxious is something that Henrik meant with explaining the verification of payee. The new regulation, with all the benefits that we know of, it also creates new opportunities for fraudsters to basically scam the customers. And as he mentioned, absolutely right. Once money is gone, it most probably won't be recovered. So there is this technical part. There is this potential new fraud scenarios coming to life. But I believe strongly that really the biggest challenge for the banks is going to be the raising awareness and changing to that real-time mindset that has to be adopted on all sides. So for banks, it will be a switch from Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 business characteristic to work 24/7, which not only means impact on the IT landscape mentioned before, but also a massive impact on the way the operations and the customer support is working. For businesses, it's going to be probably the cost of integration with a new payment method, thinking about the way to make it possible to pay or to accept instant payments in the e-commerce channel, but also in the point of sales channel in a normal grocery store, and so on, making it really more accessible to the end customers. And for the end customers, it's definitely a behavioral change from using the plastic cards or real money to pay, to actually interact with your bank account more, with apps more. But I think that there is something positive to it. Something that was mentioned in the first episode in our webinar, that there is already experience existing in the alternative payment methods area, that made the customers basically familiar with a concept of instant money transfer, which will mean that there is a reduced curve, increased confidence that banks can definitely leverage on creating new experiences in their own banking channels.
Henrik, back to you, please. Question number 3. Let's talk specifically about the new verification of payee requirement. What challenges will this cause, and how can businesses navigate them? Could you please give us a bit of insight on those 2 questions, please?
Yes, thank you. After we spoke a lot about the benefits, you always have the other side of the medal, that it also have some challenges. We can group them mainly in organizational and technical challenges. Let's start with the organizational ones. The first and by far largest challenge is the huge amount of PSPs that are affected by this regulation, especially because now the verification of payee is not only for instant payments, but also for every credit transfer. We're talking about roughly more than 8,000 entities in Europe that handling BICs and have to be incorporated. So we are talking really about immense number of entities that have to be connected, because it's a real-time requirement. So you cannot, let's say, create a centralized database with an update. It's really a real-time connection to all of them. And you have to know there is a huge number also of smaller and mid-size entities there, which for them is really a challenge, to extend their existing infrastructure and back office systems for such a service. A second challenge is the timeline. Yeah, so you may say 18 months is a lot, but looking at this immense number of entities that have to be connected, and all the topics like contracting, technical implementation, testing, billing, everything in place, and also everything in line with the individual, let's say, software cycles of all the banks. I think 18 months is a very big challenge, and I guess that not all banks will it be easy for them to implement that in this time. A third one is the business case itself. The regulation said instant payment and also the verification of payee will not cause any additional costs for the requestor, so means for the payer. So therefore, there is no, let's say, positive business case for the requesting PSPs to compensate the costs, and in effect as well for the other participants of the ecosystem, which will also be a challenge to create a good quality service based on almost no budget.
Yeah.
And the last one is I want to mention is the regulation is not only related to electronic payments, so it's valid for all channels, and we still have paper-based orders of credit transfers coming in, or telephone-based. And here the challenge would be also to introduce this service also to these, I would call them offline channels, to be served in the same way like the electronic ones.
Yeah.
If we come to the technical challenges, it starts already with the data. Many banks have still quite old legacy systems with historical data, consumer data sometimes, and we can imagine that these systems in the past were not very so accurate on the, for instance, on storing the account holder's name. We have also more and more people with names not in a European character set, so coming from Asia or from other entities, which I'm sure are not appropriate stored in the bank system so far. So the biggest challenge here would be really to do a data cleanup before you join or before you launch the new service. And this immediately leads to the fact if the name matching algorithm is not appropriate, we will have a lot of no match at the beginning. And the no match at the end means that the account holder only get told, okay, the payer is told that the account holder's name is not accordingly to the data that is stored at the bank. And what should I do? I can say, okay, I don't care. I just authorize the payment on my own risk, or maybe I feel unsafe and maybe I do not do the transfer. So therefore, it should be not in the interest of the participants that there's too many non-match. There should be a lot of close match, and close match should mean that the difference between the given data and the stored data is only small. I mentioned already the real-time requirement. This is definitely also a challenge. The rule book defines a 3-second period, maximum period, before the answer is back. But this, you have to imagine, it's a two-way request. No? It has to come from the requester to the requester bank to the responding bank and then the way back. So even 3 seconds, which sounds maybe long, can be a challenge as well. Yeah. And the liability shift is also one of the topics. It's in the regulation just mentioned as that, but at the end to manage these kind of liability cases, to see who was really guilty for this or that loss and has to really pay the compensation for that, will be a challenge for the centralized systems to really log and track in detail all the transaction status details, to be at the end also the judge for such cases between the participating PSPs.
Wow, thanks, Henrik. A lot of things, a lot of food for thought, a lot of things for us to think about. Piotr, ultimately, this new legislation is here to help, isn't it? So, what problem or what itch was the legislation scratching? A bad metaphor, perhaps, but what problems is the legislation actually solving? Just very briefly, please.
I believe in a nutshell, it's really in the end about the speed, the interoperability, and the reach within the European market. Currently, nowadays, we know that there are different payment methods across various European countries that can create friction. And also, it's not only about domestic payments, which is really, really important, I believe. So, for instance, if today I would like to send a credit transfer from Germany to Portugal, for instance, it would take probably 2, maybe 3 days, depends on the time of the or moment in time when I put the credit transfer. Now, in the new regulation, so not even in a year from now, potentially, it will take 10 seconds, and the funds will be available in Portugal to use.
10 seconds, really? Is that
Probably
how long
less.
it will take?
Hopefully less. Yeah, exactly. 10 seconds is mandated, but we know, for instance, in Netherlands, it is up to 5 seconds. Very often, much faster than even 5 seconds. So it works. It's a proven technology.
Yeah. So how can the audience that are listening in intently to this session mitigate risks associated with implementing instant payments? How can they avoid those risks? What's your advice to them, Piotr?
Definitely, they need to focus on proper integration. So if you cannot, if the banks cannot do this alone, they need to find a experienced vendor that will help and guide them through the regulation, how to be compliant. They need to identify potential risks associated with instant payments, such as fraud, operational disruptions, or technological failures. They would need also to focus on, in my opinion, on all the satellite systems, like for instance, fraud prevention systems, to make them in par in the real-time processing. Because really, along this value chain, there are so many moving parts that can impact the processing time, and in fact, the credit transfer could potentially stumble on a timeout, and this is something that no one wants. And in the end, I think that I strongly believe that it's a mindset change. It's only a beginning of a journey. So it's in the sense opportunity to improve own IT landscape and architecture to make it sure that in the future they will be also able to support more real-time requests and responses. Bringing credit transfers in the EU to the instant processing world is only the first step, and it's definitely an exciting future for account payments.
So it's the beginning of the journey, not the entire journey.
I believe so. Yes, something that was also mentioned in the first episode, in the one leg out transactions, the cross-border payments. So there is a kind of I believe, a roadmap, general bigger roadmap, and we are really at the very, very beginning of it, and it's going to be exciting. I believe it's going to be exciting.
That's great to hear. Henrik, can you help us by just wrapping up this session, please? What sort of final advice, tips and guidance would you give those that are challenged with the verification of payee? What guidance would you give them, please?
Yes, the first topic is we have to realize that each bank participates in the ecosystem in 2 roles: as a requester bank, requesting the information from the network if the match is okay, and the responding part, which delivers at the end the data and is also executing the name matching algorithm. Secondly, it's important to realize that all SCT are covered, not only SCT. It's under the umbrella of the instant payment regulation, but for this specific feature, they have extended the scope to all credit transfers, which increases dramatically the volume of transaction, and therefore also the requirements for performance and all the topics related to that. If we look at the 2 roles, if you as a PSP are in the responding role, the major task is to provide the data and to execute the name matching algorithm. Here, our recommendation, especially for the smaller and mid-sized banks, is to think about the concept of a database, which is a kind of copy of the data coming from your back office system that stores the IBAN and the name pair and maybe some additional attributes, for instance, for corporates. And these database, for instance, could be stored in a private cloud environment and then is responsible for the real-time performance. So you could make your back office system a little bit independent from this requirement. Of course, you have to take care about the update. So you have to check how often your back office system is updating the data and then upload the new data to this node. And the node, of course, can also contain the matching algorithm, for instance, executing it and delivering the data, then the match, no match, or close match to the requester. And here, of course, you could make use of some of the providers at the market that have implemented such an algorithm instead of inventing the wheel again by yourself. A similar advice we could give for the requesting role. The challenge here is really to connect to this very huge number of other banks. So we definitely would not recommend to do it by yourself, hand by hand. Here you should make use of some providers that offer this as a kind of international hub. Yeah. In best case, you would have one API to all European banks, and this would be then your solution. Yeah. We see multiple providers positioning themselves on the market, and I think it would be of big help for you to get in touch with some of them and to see what is the offering and then what geographies they can offer and to build a complete European picture.
That sounds great advice, Henrik. You make it sound all really rather easy, which I'm sure it's not, but thanks for demystifying it for us. And thanks everybody for joining this episode, and also our speakers, Henrik and Piotr, for giving us their valuable time today, their insights, their ideas, their stories, their points of view. We really enjoyed that. We really appreciated that. So that was episode 2. Episode 3 is called A Guide to Instant Payment Adoption, Future-Proofing Your Business. And if you'd like to sign up for it, please do so in the link immediately below us. And we will now say goodbye. Thank you so much again for joining us. Hope to see you again soon. Please come to episode 3. And we will, as I say, hopefully see you soon. And best of luck with your businesses and what you're doing.